Welcome to A Safe Place with Ellen. Today we're going to talk about domestic violence and elderly abuse, or domestic violence with the elderly population, which is something you don't hear a lot about, people really don't talk about, but it happens because abuse does not discriminate. You may ask, why now? Why now would domestic violence in the elderly population? Well, take it from me. You're thinking about the elderly population. I'm part of the elderly population. And when it comes to talking about domestic violence, when we talk about domestic violence, not the elderly, usually you've got probably teens up to 35, 40. When you're talking about elderly, and no offense to anyone out there, it's probably 50s to 65 and up. And when I say that, we say, why now? Well, because there's stressors. In elderly abuse, it could be starting a new relationship. It could be due to divorce, death of a loved one, something to that effect. So after we've done our grieving, we're out there and no one wants to be alone, so we're looking for another partner, possibly. This could be a reason because you're coming into a new relationship. Being alone, retirement, those kind of things can be stressors, and can be stressors on a new relationship, stressors on an old relationship. You could have some of those contributing factors to domestic violence. You might say, what would domestic violence look like in the elderly population? Well, it could be confusion. It could be disassociation. It could when we talk about those things, that could look like gaslighting. It could be gaslighting, and that would be harder to recognize because when you think about when we talk about domestic violence and the younger population, that would be easier to see. With the elderly population and domestic violence, you'll have a different set of medical professionals helping you. You'll have social workers, you'll have the police, you will have medical professionals. Not that you don't have them with the younger population of domestic violence, but remember, with the elderly comes the confusion, comes the disassociation. We all say, oh, that's a part of aging. Well, yes, it could be, or it could also be a sign of domestic violence. One of the things, I want to say about domestic violence within the elderly population is support is the biggest thing that you can do. Support and understand this violence could have gone on from the beginning of their marriage all the way up until someone finally noticed, or they felt like that they could talk about it. In a new relationship, you may see it. When we're talking with our elderly about domestic violence, one thing is the support, but understand it's a different era that we grew up in. You didn't talk about things outside the family. What happens in the family stays in the family. It's family business. You don't talk about it. And domestic violence programs weren't around to help women, elderly women, and I keep saying that, but I want you to remember I'm in this category, and I don't feel elderly, but I could also be in this category, and you might think I'm elderly if I'm going through some of these symptoms that elderly women through domestic violence would go through. I might be disassociating. I might be pulling away. Oh, that's because of my age. Well, it may not be because of my age. It may be because I'm in a situation that I, at my age, would never talk about. Again, because we don't talk about our family business. So when you see or think you see these signs of domestic violence within the elderly, within your family, your grandmother, your mother, your mother's friend. I mean, you may, after hearing this, you may say, oh, that's what's going on. Be supportive and just talk about it. And, you know, the person you're talking with that you think these things may be happening to, they'll be more open if it's just a one-on-one maybe and just a conversation. I probably wouldn't go up to someone like me, an elderly person, and say, oh, are you being abused? You'll see the signs. You'll see the mental and the emotional, also with the physical. With elderly, it could be more severe. What are you going to think? They failed? Well, they're elderly, and that's what an abuser's going to say. They fail. You know, she bumped up against something if there's a bruise. Those are the kind of things with the elderly that it's hard to pinpoint. And another thing, people don't talk about it. And trust me, it's hard for medical professionals to talk about it. What you'll usually see is Adult Protective Services with elderly abuse. I mean, because you can get CPS or APS involved with it. So, I mean, that's a source. It's absolutely a resource for you to reach out to. We're also a resource. If you just think that someone you love or someone you know is going through this, feel free to call. Feel free to call and talk to me, talk to someone in our outreach program that could give you a better definition, a better feeling about what you think may or may not be going on, and guide you to help the person that you think might be being abused.